fake HOA police came to arrest me, but I'm the real sheriff. I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood, one of those picturesque communities where everyone waves hello, but secretly spies through their blinds. Our local HOA, Homeowners Association, has always been a bit of a hassle, with ridiculous rules about mailbox colors, the length of our grass, and even the types of flowers we can plant. But I never had any real issues with them, until last week. For context, I'm the sheriff of our county. I've been in law enforcement for nearly 15 years and have seen my fair share of absurd situations. But nothing prepared me for what happened last Saturday when the self-appointed HOA police tried to arrest me. The incident begins. It was a peaceful morning, and I was enjoying my first cup of coffee while reading the newspaper when I heard a sharp knock at my front door. I opened it to find 3 men standing there in what looked like police uniforms. But something was off. Their badges looked plastic, their belts held radios that didn't even have antennas, and their name tags just had HOA enforcement on them. The leader of the group, a tall, bald guy with an overly aggressive stance, cleared his throat. "Sir, you are in violation of HOA Code 7B. 3 for failing to comply with the newly instituted driveway color regulation," he said in a deep, authoritative voice. I blinked. Driveway color regulation? "I'm sorry, what now?" I asked. The second guy, a stocky man with a clipboard, stepped forward. "Sir, you were sent notices 3 times. Your driveway is supposed to be repainted in HOA-approved beige, yet you have failed to comply. This is a direct violation of HOA rules, and we are authorized to detain you until further notice." I stared at them, trying to hold back laughter. They thought they could arrest me? They tried to arrest me. Big mistake. I crossed my arms. "You're telling me that you 3, dressed like discount mall cops, are going to arrest me because my driveway isn't beige?" The bald guy took a step closer. "That's correct. We have full authority over HOA matters. Either you come with us peacefully, or we will escalate this matter." At this point, I had to see how far they were willing to take it. "And if I refuse?" "We'll call the real police," the stocky one said smugly. I grinned. "Oh, please do." Confused, the 3 of them stepped back and whispered among themselves. After a moment, the third guy, who had remained silent this whole time, pulled out a cheap-looking radio and pretended to call someone. Dispatch, we have a non-compliant homeowner. Requesting immediate backup." "Over." Silence. I let them have their moment before I finally decided to end their charade. I pulled my sheriff's badge from my pocket and flipped it open. "Gentlemen, you are currently impersonating law enforcement, trespassing on private property, and attempting an unlawful detainment. That's about 3 separate charges I could haul you in for." Their faces went pale. The bald guy stammered, Wait, what?" I pulled my phone out and started dialing the real dispatch. "You wanted to call the police, right? Let's do it the proper way." Suddenly, all 3 of them turned and bolted like scared rabbits. I didn't even have to chase them. Instead, I reviewed my security camera footage and forwarded it to my deputies. The aftermath: it turns out these guys weren't even real HOA members. They were a group of power-hungry idiots who had been harassing residents under the guise of being an HOA enforcement division. The actual HOA board had no idea what they were up to. By Monday, all 3 of them were arrested for impersonating law enforcement and unlawful harassment. The HOA, embarrassed by the whole ordeal, sent out an apology letter and disbanded any security teams that weren't officially recognized. Now, every time I see one of my neighbors, they give me a knowing smirk. Apparently, my takedown of the fake HOA police has made me a bit of a local legend. And my driveway? It's still the same color. Because I am the law. After the wannabe HOA cops ran off like kids caught sneaking candy, I figured the drama was over. Boy, was I wrong. Retaliation from the HOA's elite. A couple of days later, I received a formal-looking letter in the mail, official HOA stationery, but no signatures, no contact number, just a demand. "Dear homeowner, due to your noncompliance with HOA Code 7B, 3 and interference with HOA enforcement, you are hereby fined $2,500 for obstruction of community rules. Failure to comply will result in legal action." I actually laughed out loud. Legal action? Against me? At this point, it was clear someone in the HOA had been backing these fake enforcers. I decided to do some digging. Uncovering the HOA conspiracy, I called my buddy, Deputy Mark, who lived a few streets away. He had also received some ridiculous fines over the years. One for having an American flag too large, another for parking his patrol car in his own driveway. Together, we went to the county clerk's office to check public records on the HOA board members. What we found was gold. Turns out, the bald guy, the one who tried to arrest me, was actually the HOA treasurer, Carl Withers. The stocky one was his cousin, Greg, and the quiet guy was a landscaper who got paid under the table for enforcement duties. Even better, Carl had been illegally fining homeowners and pocketing the money. The HOA meeting showdown, I knew exactly how to handle this. That Friday, I showed up to the HOA monthly meeting, still in uniform. The place was packed because, apparently, word had spread fast. Carl was sitting at the front, pretending like nothing had happened, while the board members shuffled awkwardly. I stood up. Carl, let's talk about those fines you've been issuing. Specifically, the $2,500 you sent me. Where exactly is that money supposed to go? Carl turned red. To the HOA fund, of course. I smirked. That's funny because the HOA's official treasury reports don't show a record of any funds from fines in the last 6 months. But your personal bank account? That's a different story. Carl started sweating bullets. You can't just access my bank records. I didn't, I said. But your cousin Greg isn't very loyal when the threat of jail time is on the table. He confessed everything, and we have a full paper trail. Not only have you been illegally fining people, but you also created a fake HOA enforcement team to intimidate homeowners. That's called fraud, Carl. And impersonating an officer? That's a felony. The room was dead silent. Then, someone in the back, Mrs. Thompson, an 80-year-old firecracker of a lady, yelled, "Arrest his sorry ass." And I did, right then and there. The aftermath, Carl and his cronies were officially charged with fraud, harassment, and impersonating law enforcement. The HOA board had no choice but to disband and reform with new leadership. This time, actual residents voted in instead of self-appointed dictators. As for me, well, I still live here, and my driveway is still not beige. And now, when I walk through the neighborhood, people don't just wave hello. They salute. Because now, they know who the real sheriff is. After Carl and his goons were taken down, I thought that was the end of my HOA troubles. The board had been restructured, the fake enforcers were arrested, and my driveway remained gloriously non-compliant. But like a cockroach infestation, some problems refused to die. The HOA's last stand a month after Carl's arrest, I received another letter. This one was more professional, with a real letterhead and an actual signature from the newly elected HOA president, Linda Caldwell. Dear homeowner, while previous HOA leadership engaged in inappropriate activities, community standards must still be upheld. As such, you are required to comply with HOA Code 7B3. Please repaint your driveway in an HOA-approved color within 14 days to avoid penalties. I sighed. Here we go again. Unlike Carl, Linda seemed reasonable. I decided to attend the next HOA meeting to see if I could sort this out like an adult. The HOA meeting. Redux, the meeting was packed. Most of the neighborhood had come just to see what would happen next. Linda, a well-dressed woman in her 50s, looked calm but firm as she addressed the room. First, I want to thank our sheriff for exposing the corruption within our HOA, she began. However, we must remember that the HOA exists to maintain property values and community harmony. That includes uniform aesthetics, such as driveway colors. A few people murmured in agreement. Others crossed their arms, clearly still bitter about the HOA's past abuse. I stood up. Linda, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but let's get one thing straight. I'm not repainting my driveway. She smiled tightly. I understand your frustration, but rules are rules. I smirked. You know what else is a rule? State law. And according to county regulations, an HOA cannot retroactively enforce a new rule on homeowners unless it was clearly stated in their purchase agreement. I've already spoken to my lawyer, and since my house was built before this driveway rule was added, you have no legal ground to fine me. Silence. Linda's face twitched. Well, perhaps we can make an exception in your case, or, I interrupted, we can strike this ridiculous rule from the HOA bylaws entirely and stop harassing homeowners over petty nonsense. The room erupted in applause. Several neighbors started chanting, "No more HOA BS." Linda sighed in defeat. Very well. I motioned to remove HOA Code 7B3 from our guidelines. A unanimous vote passed. Victory, at last. Not only did I get my driveway exemption, but my little rebellion sparked real change. The new HOA became much less strict, focusing only on serious violations, like actual safety hazards. The ridiculous HOA police concept was permanently abolished, and I was officially appointed as the community's security liaison, mostly ceremonial, but still a nice title. And now, every time I step outside, I take a deep breath, smile at my totally non-compliant driveway, and bask in the knowledge that I beat the HOA at their own game. The sheriff always wins. Epilogue: Carl's revenge? Just when I thought everything had settled, I heard a rumor Carl, my old nemesis, had made bail. And according to a few neighbors, he was plotting his return. Looks like the HOA war isn't over yet. To be continued?